Welcome to Fox 55's Fastlane.
Thanks for joining us on your Sunday morning home for the local auto racing scene. I am Bryon Graff. Jana Wimmer and Scott Wimmer will soon share their insights and tech tips, and Curt Keene, as always, will be along with his Keene Observations. State Park Speedway was rained out last week Thursday, so we start our local recaps with Golden Sands on Friday, July 17th. Last week's Fastlane guest Natalie Decker was on her game. Soon after the green flag dropped in the super late models, Reagan May, Natalie Decker, and Brandon Selly worked their way to the front of the pack. Derek Grass goes for a spin with 10 laps to go. That brings out a restart where we find Renee Shenaha in the lead. Decker moving to the inside with May following through and past Shenaha as well. We go all the way down to the finish, and it is a tight one to the finish line. Decker wins it just ahead of May, and just outside of the camera's eye, there is contact as they both spin out into turn one. Selly finishes third with Shenaha fourth, Jim Sauter Jr. fifth. May has the points lead by 8 over Sauter.
He was pressing the button like he was gonna talk, but he wasn't saying anything, so I knew she was in there, and I was scared to go down, and then we were sideways coming to the checkered, and it was crazy. It was fun though.
Wyatt Brooks clocked the fast time in the super stocks and worked his way from last to the front with 12 laps to go, meaning Phil Maloff and Rachel Callis are fighting side by side. And with 5 laps left, it turns into this, bringing out the caution. Brooks pulled away on the restart to win, increasing his points lead to 30. He was followed by Jeff Nowak and Kevin Berg.
We knew we had a good car all night. Started off with fast time, then the heat win. And so the main goal of the race was to be patient. That was on the radio, making sure I was patient the whole race.
Bumping and banging, the name of the game in the Rock 94.7 Pure Stocks. Carl Jeanette clocking his 3rd fast time this season. The contact coming to a head on lap 3 when Dan Weinfurter's car went down. Jeanette moved up through the field and into victory lane, followed by Ben Chopik and Mike Kasparek. Jeanette now with a 61-point overall lead.
And I knew I just had to wait for some of the carnage to let loose, and then after that second caution when we finally got a single file restart, I could start getting the outside working. And
Adam Krakowski was fastest in the 4 cylinders for the 4th straight race. Corey Stevens had a strong car in the lower feature, even after a restart caused by Dale Robinson's spin. But with 2 laps remaining, Stevens' right front tire comes loose. Eric Robinson fills the void and picks up the win. In the upper feature, back to Krakowski. He's flooring it and leaving others in his wake for his 2nd straight win. Dale Losey and George Seliger were next across the finish line.
Yeah, it's a lot different. It's one thing when you're out there all by yourself, but when you got to get through these cars and there's a lot of good drivers, nothing's easy.
Kuhn and Mansell, the winners in the cruiser class. Now we roll into Sunday, the makeup date for Thursday, the 16th's rainout. And again, last week's guest, Natalie Decker, was out front. Jeremy Lepak started on the pole for the 60-lap noon Optimus Super Late Model feature. Lap 32 saw a caution for debris on the track, which led to Lepak and Natalie Decker starting side by side. Lepak staying strong to the inside until the stretch run when Decker makes her move, getting around Lepak in turn 1, allowing her to pick up the win. Lepak was 2nd, followed by Mark Mackesy, Reagan May, and MG Gajewski. Lepak, meanwhile, increased his points lead to 41. Todd Handrick led the Budweiser Fabiano Brothers Limited Late Model feature early until he had company with Dave Kabelka and Justin Mondyke. With Kabelka eventually in front, contact between him and Handrick sends the 39 spinning. After the restart, Mondyke puts the heat on, but Kabelka holds him off for a 2nd straight win. Mondyke 2nd with Mondale Peters taking 3rd.
I knew if I pushed up that he probably would get underneath me, so I ended up getting really slow in the corners, but it allowed me to come off nice and low on the track, so he couldn't get underneath me.
The Krieger Insurance Pure Stock feature had a heated battle up front. Chad Dietschy in the lead, with Travis Bohm working his way through the outside line with enough to pass Dietschy. Nick Erickson Jr. following into 2nd, but didn't have enough to catch Bohm, who takes the checkered flag, followed by Erickson and Dietschy.
I didn't think I was going to get him, and then I seen he was starting to burn his stuff up, and I was slowly just coming back by and finally got around him.
John Leitz and Phil Maloff won the Snap-on Mini Mods heat races, and they set the pace in the feature. Leitz led early until Maloff makes his move on the way to victory lane. He was followed by Mike Heidemann and Josh Wilhite.
Well, I just seen an opening and I figured I had to go. There's a lot of fast cars behind me. The field's been real competitive this year, so finally got my car running good, so I had to go for it.
Zach Onsen won last week's Motor Service and Supply Mini Stocks feature presented by Fox 55's Fastlane. He led early until Dave Meyer caught him, which led to contact between the two. That's the opening Jerry Brickner needed, picking up the win. Meyer taking second, Rob Ruck third.
And I knew if I stayed back a little bit, I might have a chance. They might take each other out, and ended up being down in turn 4 when they got together, and I got into 50, 51, I think it was, a little bit, and it was enough to get both of them loose, and I was able to sneak on the inside, and after that I was gone.
Levon Vandergeest set the pace early in the professional drywall bandoleros. Then Colin Slife made his move to the front and into victory lane. Vandergeest was runner-up, followed by Gabe Summers, who moved back in front of the points chase. The Larry Deachens event at State Park Speedway is split into 2 nights, and now because of the timing with our taping schedule, we have the first night for you in this show, while the Saturday event will be featured in next week's show. So here's a look at Friday night. The Big 8 Series rolls onto the track for a 58-lap feature with 22 cars, and it went right down to the wire. First, though, Mondale Peters in the 90 gets into the rear of the 62 car, and there goes the hood, bringing out the race's first caution. Meanwhile, Jay Herbst in the 82, coming off a fast time where he posted a 14.622 time, was pushing Michael Bilderback in the 2 for the lead. Check out the finish. Coming through turn 4, Herbst to the outside. The 2 goes for a spin, crosses the finish line first. But he pays a price as the 39 car of Todd Handrick crashes into him. Look at the mayhem that follows. The 87 part of that as well. Bilderback your winner, followed by Herbst and Casey Johnson. Motor Service and Supply Mini Stocks, a 25-lap feature. Dave Meyer, who finished runner-up on Sunday, holds off a hard-charging Dylan Mackesy to take the checkered flag. Snap-on Mini Mods, another 25-lap feature. Adam Krakowski shows once again why he's been so good this year. It's another win for the number 16 car. The Professional Drywallers Bandoleros ran a 15-lap feature. Check out the contact between Levon Vandergeest in the 23, Luke Fenhouse in the 4, and Gabe Summers in the 15. That brings out the night's first caution. When it's all said and done, Rock Christensen is your winner.
The 13 of Rock Christensen over Luke Fenhouse, Gabe Summers.
Curt Keene joining us now for your weekly dose of Keene Observations. Obviously having a fantastic hair day, so he's wearing our Fastlane hat.
Hey, a long weekend of racing. That's all I got. No time to get a haircut, Bryon.
Just make sure you put on the sunscreen when you head out to those tracks.
Yeah, no doubt.
Larry Deachen's 2-night event at State Park Speedway. I know people were already starting to arrive at the track on Wednesday. They're camping. They got everything out and ready. It really is a big event on the calendar for the racing scene around here.
Yeah, the Larry Deachen's is a really special event, and you know, starting on Wednesday, getting the campers ready to get out at the Speedway. People are excited. A couple years ago when the Wimmers took over the Speedway, we raced the Deachens on a Thursday. A couple years, the next year afterwards, we said, let's call it, have a 2-day show, have a fest before Oktoberfest in the end of July, early August. We'll call it Deachen's Fest, and it's one of those you circle on the calendars. It's a really big event, and you know, to pay tribute to a great person and Larry, and it's good to see everyone, great fans coming out, and it's great support.
It's always fun for people to share those stories. Last week, Natalie Decker was here with you and Jana, and then she must have had just the Fastlane vibe going for her, because then she won a couple times. One of those races, 3 women racing toward the finish line.
Yeah, it was very exciting. Natalie, Reagan May. Reagan, we've had an interview with the NASCAR Diversity with the Quickie. I mean, Natalie just beat her by maybe a fender, you know, and before the race, Renee Shenaha was leading the race. So at one time it was Renee, Reagan, Natalie, 3 girls, 1, 2, and 3. But then Renee ended up falling back to 4th, with Brandon Selly ended up taking 3rd. So, you know, it was probably the first time that's ever happened that 3 ladies were running 1, 2, and 3, and that finish was just one of the best I've seen this year so far.
Pretty amazing. Throughout the season with us doing this show, Carl Jeanette's name has been mentioned quite a bit, and I'm taking a look at what he's done, and a fast time for the 3rd time this year at Golden Sands, leads by 61 points. He really has a fast car this year.
Yeah, not only there. I mean, Marshfield, he's the guy to beat so far. And, you know, at Plover, some guys had some bad luck last Friday night to give him a little more extension into his lead. But 7 feature wins, that's pretty impressive. I mean, it doesn't matter what division you are because it's always competition. You got to make sure your car's doing good, it runs good, and make sure you stay out of trouble. And he's done a great job. He told me last week when we talked to him that he was thinking about maybe selling the car at the end of the year and be an adult and maybe buy a house. But with the way he's going, he could win 2 track champions, and that would be pretty impressive at Marshfield and Plover.
Yeah, definitely impressive. 4 cylinders are always near and dear to my heart because I had an 81 Mustang, and I just beat the heck out of it when I learned how to drive stick. Adam Krakowski, 4 straight fast times. He's won back-to-back. He's been having a tremendous year.
You know, Adam is really good. I mean, his dad was a pioneer racing, Joe Krakowski, and Adam just does it to have fun, and he's really fast. I mean, he goes down to the Dells. He has a chance to win every week, but at Golden Sands, he's had every fast time that they've had a race there, and he's either been second, I mean, just close. The guy's a really good 4-cylinder runner and has a lot of fun. He's just a cool guy to talk to. He's got a lot of knowledge, and it's fun to talk racing with him because he's got some of the old school mentality, and he brings like an old school hauler with his race car, and so that's pretty cool.
It's always fun to see the future and the present, really, of racing at State Park Speedway at the Bandoleros, and Gabe Summers has really been consistent as well.
Yeah, consistent for sure. I was looking at the point standings after last Sunday, and Gabe is leading the point standing by 6. Even Luke Fenhouse has won 3 features in a row up until last Sunday. Was starting to walk away with it. Had a bad night, and you know, Gabe's been consistent right there. Bandoleros, I think it's going to come down to the end, and you know, it's anyone's race right now. The points are pretty tight. Even if, you know, in other divisions at State Park are really close as well.
What's coming up at Marshfield this week?
Marshfield's got a race this coming Thursday, the Dick Trickle Memorial. Last year was a 99+1. It's just a race in tribute to Dick Trickle. Should be a good event. I know last year they had $1 hot dogs, $1 Paps. I think they're doing it again this year. So with State Park racing on Saturday and Golden Sands this coming Friday, that was the only date they could get in. Marshfield, Wayne does a great job over there, tries to work with other racetracks to get their racing in because he also has cars that race at those tracks, let alone promote a racetrack. So it's really cool that we're going to try to get a race on Thursday, even though we're usually at Wausau, but we have that week off. So head out to Marshfield. It's a great event, nice facility.
And you had me at Pabst.
There you have it.
Fantastic.
$1.
As always, our thanks to Curt Keene and our Keene Observations. It's time now for our first break, and after we come back, we will see how Kyle Busch is keeping up his amazing streak. Welcome back to Fastlane. I'm Bryon Graff. Kyle Busch is the hottest driver these days on the Sprint Cup circuit. After missing the first 11 races this season with serious leg injuries, he's really come on strong, winning 2 of the last 3 races, placing him 87 points out of 30th in the standings. With 8 races to go heading into New Hampshire, the number 18 car needed to average 17th place in each of the remaining races. Let's take a look at the highlights, talking about hot drivers. When we look at the 5-hour Energy 301, well, great balls of fire. Lap 97, Alex Bauman's right front tire catches fire leaving pit road. He was okay, and after repairs actually took 42nd out of 43 cars. Lap 194, Kevin Harvick snagging the lead from Brad Keselowski shortly after the restart. And on to lap 251. Kyle Busch unlaps himself by passing Keselowski just ahead of the caution coming out. Busch would then take the lead on the restart and heading into the final lap. Yeah, he's ahead of everybody, holding on to take the checkered flag in New Hampshire. His 3rd win in 4 weeks. He's 58 points now out of that 30th spot in the standings.
It certainly is nice. You know, it certainly has been a perfect storm, if you will, you know, to come back and to get back into fast race cars. That's what's meant the most, you know, and to just be able to have that opportunity.
And you see the results right there. Kyle Busch in that familiar spot on top, followed by Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, Dale Earnhardt Jr. The top 10 rounded out by Matt Kenseth in 6, Carl Edwards, Austin Dillon, Jeff Gordon, and Kurt Busch. Wisconsin native Paul Menard finishing 25th. This afternoon in Indianapolis, Busch tries to become the first driver since Jimmy Johnson in 2007 to win 3 races in a row. Green flag drops on the Crown Royal presents the Jeff Kyle 400 at the Brickyard this afternoon. Time for us to take another Fastlane break. When we come back, we'll be joined by one of a title contender at 2 different local tracks. Welcome back to Fastlane. I'm Bryon Graff. Curt Keene back again, and this week we welcome a driver who heads into the weekend third in the standings at two local tracks, Ryan Hinner, third at State Park Speedway and at Marshfield. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Third in the standings at two different tracks. So what's going well for you this season?
We've been consistent. We've been close to a couple feature wins, both at State Park and at Marshfield. Come up a little bit short, a half a fender on one and a half a lap on another one, but we've been consistent. It's been top fives, it's been top threes, but just haven't been where we need to be to get the wins yet.
Is it a matter of when you want to finish high, you don't want to take too many risks? Maybe if you had a little extra, you could put a little something in there. But how do you approach it down the stretch when you obviously want to win, but you obviously want to have a high finish?
Yeah, I mean the first thing that we got to do is we got to continue working on our cars and getting them better over the long run. Races are, I mean, a lot of it's been a lot of track position, so it's been hard to. You know, if you start farther back, if you qualify well and don't catch the invert right, you got to pass a lot of cars. And if you don't have a well set up car over 60 laps, it's going to be hard to get a good finish. So we've been working really hard at getting the car better over the long run and see what happens here towards the end.
And, you know, you talk about, you know, getting the car right. You kind of come out of a stable with some good people that helped you, not only your dad, but, you know, if you have a problem, you can call Bryon Hinner down the road and say, hey, you know, I'm having this problem at the Speedway. What kind of input you have? Does he give you some good insights?
Yeah, it's been unbelievable to have someone like Bryon Hinner and Tom Hinner and the whole Hinner family to lean on. If something goes wrong mechanically, tossing around setup ideas, things like that. I've also got, obviously, my dad, John Bovey's been a huge help, and then Adam Krakowski, who's been tearing it up in the four cylinders, and he's a huge help. We'll call, we'll talk to each other, throw setup ideas for both our cars. I got a good group of people behind me.
How long have you been racing?
I've been racing since I was 12. Started out in go-karts, racing little clay go-karts from Clintonville to Ringgold. Had to beg my dad to let me begin racing. Had to save up my money for a while. He finally went, okay, I guess he's committed. We'll go with this, and then raced in go-karts till 2007, and then moved up into the Superstock division.
And talk about the Superstocks. You were a guy that had a really fast car. I think one year at Marshfield, you won like 8 or 9 features in a row.
When you string all those wins together, is there one that really stands out among the rest?
I think it was the one there's a couple of them. The first night out at Golden Sands that year, we won, set fast time and won, and that was a big deal. And then at State Park, we won the championship there that year in 2011 with the Superstock, but going up against Lyle Nowak and Mike Gwitt was a big deal, tough competition, and to get a couple wins up there was pretty awesome as well.
And now moving up with the super late model, you know, you've had some success. You won a feature, I believe, last year at Marshfield, and you know, it takes, you know, a lot of time to work on these cars, especially going Thursday from Wausau, Friday to Marshfield. I mean, you must have a lot of time to do that, or is it just a lot of good help?
I mean, it's a lot of time in the shop working on it, and it's tough because the super late model division is a whole another level of competition. So you're going against a lot of really, really big teams, a lot of knowledge, a lot of money. So it's something that we've got great equipment, but we just got to bring it to that next level to be able to, instead of finishing third or fifth or coming up just short, to get us over the edge and begin to get us wins.
Did you ever have a point where you thought, wow, I belong here?
I think, it was pretty quick right away in my first super late model year in 2012, where we began immediately competing with the Jim Sauter Juniors and big guys that were around the area, and went, wow, I can compete with these guys. And it's just a matter of perfecting the setup and getting there and doing it.
A lot of people know you as Mr. Hinner because of your day job. Tell us what you do.
I am actually a 8th grade social studies teacher at Ben Franklin in Stevens Point. So it's a cool deal because I see some of my students at the track and they're kind of like, Mr. Hinner, it's like, oh, don't call me that here. I'm at the racetrack. This is my time. Yeah, that's my dad. So it's a neat job. I enjoy it, but it's kind of neat that the kids get a different side of me.
And you know, we were kind of talking about the other day in your trailer, like, there's some times where when you first got your job, like another teacher would be like, son, where are you going? Because you're so young. One of your colleagues thought you were a student, didn't they?
Yeah, you get the dress down Fridays where I'll wear a pair of blue jeans and a shirt, and it's like, ooh, I look a little bit too much like the students sometimes.
But you raced all the way through when you were at college at, I believe, UWSP.
Yeah, I actually raced all the way through college at Point, and then I recently also graduated with a master's in finance. I did that online through Whitewater. So It's been full-time students, jobs, and a race car, which is a full-time job.
And you
in
just
itself.
had your first full school year of teaching,
Yep,
right?
yep, and then getting ready for another one here shortly. Scary.
So it's kind of nice in the summer. You can concentrate on racing and then get back into the school year?
Yeah, it's nice to, being at racing, having the summers off to be able to work on the equipment instead of it being 8 to midnight or 1 in the shop and then getting up and going to work. You can work on it all day, so that is an added benefit.
And you said earlier, and we've talked about it through all our shows this year, about family-oriented sport. I mean, we all know racing is very family-oriented, but I know your dad puts a lot of his money into your race team, and your Uncle Paul, who was a guy that we lost this past spring, he was a big success into your racing, and I'm sure you'd like to get a feature win for him this year.
Yeah, that's the goal. My Uncle Paul, Cater Henry, was just an unbelievable guy, an unbelievable help, sacrificed so much of his time for my racing, and it was just something that we lost him this past year, and we're racing for him, and we really miss him.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Moving into another direction now, we're going to do our checkered finish, so we have some fun questions for you. Kurt, you get to start it off.
What was your first street car?
First street car, I actually still have it. It still kind of tries to drive around. It was a 97 Ford Ranger, little 4-banger stick shift.
Those things last forever, don't they?
It's struggling now.
Did you drive it from point today?
No, I didn't, because I was afraid it was going to break.
Thank you, Mr. Hinner. What would be your dream car?
I'm actually pretty basic when it comes to that stuff. I'm not in. I like the classic cars, but I'd be afraid to scratch it. So I just would like a nice new pickup truck is what I like. Silverado, something like that.
Nothing, just basic.
Yeah.
What was your first job?
First job, I was a food assistant at St. Michael's Hospital.
Oh. And who's your favorite NASCAR driver?
I have to follow the tune of everybody else. When I started off when I was younger, it was Jeff Gordon. It was all about Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, a lot of Jeff Gordon.
And which racetrack, if you could race at any track in the world, where would it be?
I'll be honest with you, it would be Daytona, because there's just something about that track, the history there. It'd be fun to get out on the high banks there.
I know you don't have a whole lot of time because you're such a busy person, but what's your favorite thing to do when you get away from the track?
Fishing. I love going out walleye perch fishing. If I've got a couple of days, I'm out of here and heading up north.
Yeah, and last week we couldn't with the rainouts. That kind of put a disappointment. But racetrack's just about as fun, right?
Yep, for sure.
That does it for our checkered finish. Who are the sponsors you'd like to thank?
I've got a lot of sponsors that I need to thank. First off, Merrill Iron and Steel, a huge help to us. B&B Equipment, D&L Sign, and Wagner Motorsports have been just gigantic for us in getting us out there on the racetrack and fast.
And we have a couple sponsors as well that we'd like to recognize. And Kurt's got the shirt, Flipside Graphics,
awesome.
And I have a gift card for you from Country Fresh Meats.
Awesome.
Ryan, thanks so much for joining us.
Appreciate it, guys.
We're going to take a break. That's a wrap on this edition of Fastlane. Our thanks to Scott Wimmer, Curt Keene, and our driver guest, Ryan Hinner. Also, a big thank you to our sponsors, Car Parts, Flipside Graphics, Country Fresh Meats, and Brickner's of Wausau. From all of us here at Fox 55, have a great week, and we'll see you on the track.